ahead of their great rivals Egbert Streuer of Holland and Rolf Billand of Switzerland. And the British crowd were looking for a hat-trick of wins in the Shell British Grand Prix. Roger Burnett and Murray Walker, the commentators.
So now up at the end of the parade lap to occupy their positions on the grid come the three greatest sidecar passengers and drivers of recent times. In pole position, Rolf Billand and Kurt Valtisberg. In second place on the grid and leading the championship, the man who won the championship the last 2 years, Steve Webster, his passenger Tony Hewitt. And third on the grid, nearest you as you look at the screen, Egbert Streuer and Gerald de Haas, who have also won the World Championship 3 times. Billand has won it 4 times, Webster twice, and Egbert Streuer has won it 3 times. And they are all in the front row of the grid, being held now, just a few moments, waiting for the course car to take up its position at the back of the grid. It has done so. And now, watch for the lights, Rolf Billand, and alongside him, Steve Webster. An excellent start for Egbert Streuer. They go down towards Redgate. It's number 3, Egbert Streuer leading. Billand and Webster coming up to Redgate alongside each other. Billand will take second place because he has the inside line. And in 4th position is Michel Fresk. But already Steve Webster is challenging for second place and almost getting the nose chopped off his outfit. But as they come down to the Craner curves, it's Egbert Streuer leading. Billand in second place, challenged by Webster. And in 4th position, it is Steve Abbott and Sean Smith, the British pairing, who did very well in practice, got well up on the grid. The rest of them stream through. There's Rolf Steinhausen, the only left-hand side engine on the outfits in this race. And Billand there in second position. Webster tucked up tight behind him. But now Streuer is straining with a clear circuit in front of him to put in a really quick first lap and try to build a gap between himself and Rolf Billand in second place. But he'll have a job to do that, and Webster's challenging for second as they come down to the S's for the first time, and he through. Steve Webster through at the S's, has only got now Egbert Streuer in front of him, but Rolf Billand will fight back. Now these 150 horsepower engines, and Billand has done it. Back into second place. We've already had 2 changes for second place on this, the very first lap. And it's still Steve Abbott and Sean Smith, the British pairing, in 4th position. So the British pairs are 3rd and 4th, trying for second. 1 lap completed, almost. Streuer leads, Billand second, Webster 3rd. Abbott is in 4th place, Michel and Fresk are in 5th position. And forgive me if I don't always mention the passenger. And now Webster again tries to go through on the inside. They're now on their way down to the Craner curves, and they're doing about 120 miles an hour in their outfits at this time. Billand in second place still, and again Webster's trying to go through. He's got the inside line. He'll do it this time. He's done it. And look at the way Steve Abbott and Sean Smith are hanging on. Now this is unexpected. Their LCR Yamaha-powered outfit was not reckoned to be as fast as the 3 in front of them, which are real World Championship standard outfits. But Steve Abbott and Sean Smith, with an enormous amount of experience behind them, did well in the TT 5 years ago and have been in World Championship racing ever since then, and they're well up. But it's Webster number 1 challenging Egbert Streuer for the lead and taking it. And now on lap 2 in this 24-lap race, Steve Webster, world champion in 1988 and 1987, with Tony Hewitt doing the business in the sidecar alongside him, leads the British Grand Prix. He leads the British Grand Prix from the man he has to beat in order to do well in the World Championship, Egbert Streuer, who is being challenged by Rolf Billand. What do you think of the show so far, Roger Burnett?
It's absolutely fantastic, Murray, isn't it? I've never seen so many changes in the lead or so much excitement on the first couple of laps of a sidecar race for a long time. Obviously, Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt will be trying their utmost to win this in front of their home crowd. But believe me, I wouldn't like to be in Tony Hewitt's position on the outfit. I'll tell you a bit about that later.
Yes, because now Billand has moved back into second place, and you can see that this record crowd of some 68,000 people, and you add to that another 20,000 that were here yesterday and the day before, Nearly 90,000 people totaling the crowd at Donington, and they're seeing a magnificent meeting. Led here in the sidecar race, the Shell British Sidecar Grand Prix, Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt. Mick Webster, who is Steve's father, looks after the outfit with Steve, and they do a superb job. And now we are on lap 3, and Webster is the fastest man so far. He has just gone round in 1 minute 40.8, compared with Rolf Biland's lap record of 1 minute 40.05, and that was at the beginning of the race. And Steve Abbott and Sean Smith are tackling Egbert Stroyer, number 3, for third position. Now, the men of the race so far have to be Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt, but Steve Abbott and Sean Smith are challenging them, because look at the way they're going. In 4th position, challenging Egbert Stroyer. There's the Dutchman in the background, number 3. In 4th position, number 10, Steve Abbott and Sean Smith. Then it's the Frenchmen, Alain Michel and Jean-Marc Fresque in 5th position, and they're followed by the Egloff brothers. Look at the speed as they go underneath our camera on the start and finish straight into Redgate. This is a second gear, about 100 miles an hour as they go up from 2nd to 3rd to 4th and 5th. Then onto the Craner curves. There's the confirmation of the fact that Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt have put up the fastest lap so far. And they are in an advantageous position at the present moment, because they're out on their own. They've got a gap between them and Rolf Biland and Kurt Valtisberg in 2nd place. And Egbert Stroyer is being held up in a way by Steve Abbott and Sean Smith, because they're absolutely together, fighting for the same patch of ground, and we all know how difficult that is.
Yes, Murray, Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt are in an ideal position there. They can pull away. They know this track better than any of their fellow competitors. Earlier in the year, Steve Webster took me personally on the outfit with him in Tony Hewitt's position, and believe me, I could only do 2 laps before my forearms actually were so pumped up they seized up, and I had to pat him on the back to let me off the outfit.
I can well imagine that, having done it once myself many times, many years ago. You have to be supremely fit. Both Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt are, but Tony Hewitt in particular has to be. Steve Webster spends all his time tucked up behind the fairing. His legs, like those of all the other drivers, are actually stretched out behind him. You can't see them because of the fairing, but his right and left feet operate the brake pedal and the gear change of the 4-cylinder engine, which is behind Steve Webster's backside and between him and Tony Hewitt, lying on the rear part of the fairing as they go round the right-hander. Now watch him get over to the left for the left-hander, getting his weight in exactly the right place to keep the weight distribution right and to prevent the outfit from sliding or turning over. Up towards McLean's, out of Starkey's. They're doing about 120 miles an hour at this point, and Tony Hewitt's got his weight out as far as he possibly can, and still the sidecar wheel comes off the ground. Look at this, absolutely magnificent. Sidecars, of course, in the old days, many years ago in the 1920s, were literally that, sidecars. But look at Kurt Valtisberg now, with his head hanging right over the right-hand side of the fairing. But then, led by the great Eric Oliver, the sidecar outfit changed from being a separate motorbike with a sidecar attached to a one-piece thing. That's Kurt Valtisberg. He knows exactly what he's doing. He may not look as though he does. He may look as though he's feeling rather ill, but he's got his weight in exactly the right place. Now, this is lap 5 in this 24-lap race. Steve Webster needs reliability. He has had all sorts of cylinder barrels, cylinder heads, crankcases, tyres, suspension units to experiment with. But as Roger Burnett was saying, nobody knows Donington quite as well as Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt. It's their home track. It gives them an advantage. And if they win here, having seen what the crowd did with Kevin Schwantz, I can't imagine what will happen if Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt win. And you can see that the lap times are coming down. and Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt are the pair that are bringing them down. 1 minute 39.74. That is 90.23 miles an hour, and that is a new lap record. That is the first race lap at over 90 miles an hour. Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt, and they're now leading by 1.5 seconds. There's Biland, the most innovative sidecar driver of all time. Stroyer in third position. Still Steve Abbott and Sean Smith, a British pairing, in fourth position. As out from the East Midlands airport goes a passenger carrying aeroplane. They won't be able to look down on the circuit from the windows, which is a pity for them because they're missing a great deal. Third, number 3, Egbert Stroyer and Gerald de Haas. Behind them in fourth place, Steve Abbott and Sean Smith. Behind them in fifth place, it's Alain Michel and Jean-Marc Fresque. In sixth position is Egloff and Gavin Simmons, his new British passenger, to replace his German brother. As through to complete the 6th lap come the leaders. That is Alain Michel in 5th position, number 4. So there is the gap between 1st, 2nd and 3rd. And this is the French pairing of Alain Michel and Jean-Marc Fresque from Montélimar. And the sad news is that I can't see Steve Abbott and Sean Smith because Alain Michel and Jean-Marc Fresque that we're looking at now have moved up into fourth place. The British pairing from Nottingham, Steve Abbott and Sean Smith, have disappeared from the fray. Just a quick sighting of somebody coming into the pits. But it wasn't them, and it's still in fourth position, this pairing. And sidecar racing, like everything else, is about a combination of courage, experience, skill, and the right machinery. No 3 elements are enough, you have to have all 4. And Steve Webster, number 1, and Tony Hewitt, his passenger, have got all those elements in very ample quantities. 10 times a winner of Grand Prix, twice a winner of the World Championship. There is Rolf Biland, and I was saying earlier on that he's the greatest innovating sidecar engineer and driver of all time. He and Louis Christa, who also comes from Switzerland, pioneered the kind of sidecar outfit that you're looking at now, which is in effect a Formula 3 car with only 3 wheels. It has a chassis, a metal and carbon fibre chassis between the driver and the passenger, from which the front... And there's Steve Abbott and Sean Smith. Well, they're all right. That's the good news. The bad news is that they're out of the race, having held a fine 4th place. And now Biland is speeding up. 1 minute 39.62. That's another record lap. 90.34 miles an hour, and he's speeding up in his efforts to catch Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt, because he will know that if he delays very much longer, he could lose the race. Here's Steve Abbott, Sean Smith, Steve Abbott in the passenger, in the driver part. Well, Roger, do you think he can do it, Biland?
If anybody can do it, it certainly is Biland. We've seen him put the fastest lap up now. He did qualify in pole position. That means that during the training sessions he managed to get his outfit functioning properly, all the right suspension settings, the carburation settings, the braking efficiency of the outfit is obviously at its best. I can't imagine what Waltersburg must feel like with his head down by the side there. The interesting thing here is that the only pair to use anything but a leather suit in this the sidecar race here are Biland and his passenger. They're using Kevlar, which when we get a close-up you'll see it's a different material which allows them to move about a lot more. And the way Waltersburg is actually moving about on that outfit, you can see how he needs something supple around him.
There's a significant difference in something else supple with those 2 outfits, and that is that Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt have Avon tyres on their outfit, whereas Rolf Biland, number 2, and Kurt Valtisberg, his passenger, have Japanese Yokohama tyres, and it could give either an advantage at any point during the race, depending on the compounding and the construction, and therefore the grip and the life of their tyres. So, Biland and Valtisberg now with Webster again fastest. So lap after lap, we're getting a faster time. And now on lap 8, which is the one that has just been completed in this 24-lap race, Webster and Hewitt have responded to the fastest lap challenge, the record lap challenge of Rolf Biland, by, in their turn, breaking the lap record. 1 minute 39.34, which is some 7/10 of a second faster than Biland's previous lap record from last year. And that's a speed of 90.6 miles an hour in these 500cc, four-cylinder, two-stroke, 150 horsepower, six-speed sidecar outfits. They weigh about 195 kilograms. They run on pump fuel. And if you want to buy one, about £40,000 would do very nicely.
You'll notice on Rolf Biland's passengers' left bum cheek a black pad when we get a nice close-up, Murray. That's because, there it is, we can see it in camera shot now. That is because on the left-hand corners, he actually trails his bum along the road. He gets hung out that far to keep the passenger wheel down. Watch as we come through the Craner curves now. He gets right over. Look at the bum cheek there. That's absolutely incredible, isn't it? I bet you wish that's, at least it's not you.
No answer to that, Roger. But my goodness, he's making it work for him, I'll say that. So, Kurt Valtisberg, having found yet another tweak to add to the mechanical benefits of their LCR Krauser outfit, LCR chassis, Krauser engine, and Krauser, of course, is the man who has done so much in the way of motorcycle accessories and engines for 80cc solo racing in the World Championship class and 50cc. But it's not enough at the present moment, because Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt, with their Krauser self-tuned engine, are leading. But look at the battle now for third position. Number 3, Egbert Stroyer, is having to work very hard indeed to stave off Alain Michel and Jean-Marc Fresque in their Krauser-powered outfit. This is the battle in the race, and Michel smokes the rear tyre as he locks it up. Let's hope he hasn't flat-spotted, and I shouldn't think so. Wasn't on for all that long. So there's Biland going through second. Here is Egbert Stroyer, number 3 in third place. And appropriately enough, number 4, Alain Michel and Jean-Marc Fresque in fourth position. But I reckon they're going to take third position at Redgate. They're in a good position now to pull out from behind Egbert Stroyer, get the inside line and take the third place. And they do so. No, they don't. Egbert Stroyer cuts across the front of them. And they are doing, as they go round Redgate, about 100 miles an hour and accelerating as they get towards the Craner curves in 5th and top gear. Round the left-hander. Still swinging left into the old hairpin, 3rd gear. Up to 4th and 5th and building to 120 miles an hour for the fast left uphill sweep at Starkey's underneath the bridge up towards McLean. There is the race order, and you can see the gigantic spellbound crowd thronging the hillsides and every inch of grass around the outside of the circuit, and they're keeping their fingers crossed. It's obviously a partisan crowd here at Donington, and they want to see Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt win the British Grand Prix for the 3rd year in succession and increase their chances of winning the championship for the 3rd year in succession. This is the battle for 3rd position. On the right, Egbert Stroyer, the Dutchman, the bearded Dutchman. And here's Tony Hewitt in the sidecar, Steve Webster driving. Now look at the gap as they go into Goddard's, the left-hander. And it looks to me as though they are increasing their lead. It was 3.2 seconds at the end of the previous lap. They cross the line now. Biland exits the corner. They are undoubtedly increasing their lead. It is up to 4.9 seconds. But this is the battle, with Steve Webster, the fastest man, and Tony Hewitt on the course, 1 minute 39.4, a lap record. Rolf Biland now 4.9 seconds behind, and 4 seconds ahead of this battle for third position. And out of the race go Tony Vissen and Kilian Vissen, the Swiss brothers. Stroyer and Michel. You see the rider can't move at all. He has to hang on to the handlebars with the clutch under his left hand, the twist grip and the brake lever under his right hand, his legs stretched out behind him, straddling the 4-cylinder engine and operating the foot controls for the gearbox and the brake. He's absolutely immobile there. The marshals were putting straw bales around that outfit to protect it in case anybody else goes off there, and the brothers seem to be perfectly okay.
Webster and Hewitt then with a healthy lead. As we move into the later stages of the race, the interest is in the battle for second place.
Look at this, because now Egbert Stroyer is right up with Rolf Biland. Egbert Stroyer knows that Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt are leading. He knows that he's got to get past them if he ideally can because of the World Championship situation. I suspect that there's no chance of that happening, but if he can only get past Rolf Biland, it would give him another 2 points in the World Championship, which could make all the difference at the end of the season. But at the present moment, on lap 17 out of 24, it's still Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt, as you can see, some 13 seconds now, extending their lead all the time, with the fastest lap, 1 minute 39.34, 90.59 miles an hour, having shattered the previous lap record. And we've just seen Paul Goodle and Charlie Goodle, the Swiss brothers, in their outfit, in trouble, touring in. But no touring here. Second, number 2, Biland. Third, number 3, but is he going through? Indeed he is, and he does. Rolf Biland has got a problem. He must have, because the way Egbert Stroyer has caught and now passed him means that there has got to be some mechanical problem with Rolf Biland's outfit. I don't know, obviously, but I suspect that it might be the tyres. Although Egbert Stroyer, like Biland, is on Yokohama tyres, and now Michel is right up with Biland. It looks as though before very much longer, 54 times a winner in Grand Prix racing, Rolf Biland, is going to have slipped down from second position to third position to fourth position, with number 4, Alain Michel, Jean-Marc Fresque, the Montélimar residents from France, starting to push the Swiss pairing of Biland and Bartisberg as they come into the Craner curves again, out of them, up to the old hairpin. And meantime, don't forget that Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt are still there in front, leading now by 14 seconds. They are lap by lap increasing their lead. And now, with 7 laps, including the one that they are on to go, it won't be very much longer before Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt can start to ride tactically, if they're not already doing so, by making super sure that they don't over-rev the engine, by making super sure that they don't clip any apexes too close and go up onto the curves and risk damaging the outfit, because the battle for second place behind them is falling further and further behind all the time. Lucky Stroyer, number 3. Lucky because he's gone up from 4th to 3rd. Now there's Webster and Hewitt. You can see that they're lapping tail enders. They've just gone past Ray Gardner and Tony Strevens with a very comfortable lead of 14 seconds. And I think nearly everybody who's watching in this 70,000 odd crowd here at Donington today, an absolute record, is holding their breath and keeping their fingers crossed that this pairing will last for another 6 laps to make it 3 in a row, to make it a hat-trick, in which case their World Championship lead will have been extended from 9 points to 13 points, if my mental arithmetic is right. And a nicer couple of people you couldn't hope to meet than Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt. Ever cheerful, tremendously capable, enormously helpful to their fellow competitors, and people like me who have to find out things, patiently explain anything we need to know. And so there's Billand, trotting back all the time, with Stroyer now. Egbert Stroyer in second place, ahead of Rolf Billand in third position. It's still Alain Michel in fourth place. He doesn't seem to be able to do anything about the gap between himself and Billand in third position. Well, thus far, this has not been the wheel by wheel, inch by inch drama and excitement that the 1988 Sidecar British Grand Prix was, but it's nonetheless very satisfying from the point of view of British enthusiasts because of the positioning of Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt. Rolf Billand and his passenger, and there is Egbert Stroyer doing the very best he can. 14 years of sidecar experience compared with the 18 years of Rolf Billand, who is behind him. Whoops, and there's an overturner. That's veteran Derek Jones and Peter Brown, a past British Grand Prix winner. They won the British Grand Prix in 1978, and they've gone off at McLean's. And I hope Derek's all right, because he may well have been trapped in. It looks, no, he's all right. He's walking, and they're both okay. They're both walking. And that's one of the very special collapsible stretchers in the foreground that the marshals and first aid people are equipped with here. And now Egbert Stroyer has got Michel right up with him as they've been balked by a tail ender. But Stroyer is going to be able to go through as they come to the Melbourne hairpin. They're coming up to conclude very shortly the 20th lap. 4 laps to go at the end of this one. Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt have gone through and started their 21st lap. Egbert Stroyer comes out of the left-hander, followed by Billand, followed by Michel. The gap between second and fourth now is 3.12 seconds. There could certainly be a change for second place still, if tyres are starting to go off, if engines are getting tired, and you can see, as I say that Alain Michel is right up with Rolf Billand. Now, there is the second place man. You'll see now 2 sidecar pairings together, and it's Rolf Billand, and he's lapping the Egloff brothers. And believe it or not, Derek Jones and Peter Brown have righted their outfit and restarted it. There's courage for you. Billand, the man that's the pairing that has just left is Wolfgang Strobeck and Steve Campbell. So Stroyer in second position. Well, he's managed to get ahead of Billand. That's the best he's been able to do. But unless he beats Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt, which is looking less and less likely, with just 3 laps to go at the end of this one, he's going to have seen their championship lead extended rather than reduced. Stroyer, second place, into Goddard. And meantime, Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt are round Redgate on their way to the Craner Curves, well into their 22nd lap, with just 2 laps to go at the end of this one. Stroyer, Redgate, about 95 miles an hour up onto the curve. He's really trying. So in this this Shell British Sidecar Grand Prix here at Donington. It's Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt are commanding 13 seconds ahead of Egbert Stroyer and Gerald de Haas. Third position, 3 seconds behind them, Rolf Bieland and Kurt Valtisberg. In fourth position, close to them, Alain Michel and Jean-Marc Fresque. Then Egloff and Simmons, and in sixth place, the Stolzler brothers. Now, number one, Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt have just cleared the S's and are on their way down to the Melbourne hairpin on this, their 22nd lap. At the end of this lap, they will have the 23rd lap and the 24th lap to do. Just 2 laps, just 5 miles between them and 20 World Championship points. They'll be being very cautious and making sure that people like Theo van Kempen and Simon Birchall, that they're behind at the moment. And number 24, Billy Galros and Julian Tailford, that they've yet to pass, do not get the opportunity to put them off their line because they've got a very comfortable lead. And I'm watching not only Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt as they go on their victorious way on the 23rd lap and go past now Galros and Tailford, but I'm watching out of the corner of my eye as well this partisan, enormously enthusiastic and knowledgeable crowd at Donington, who, despite the fact, or perhaps because of the fact that this is the last race and this is exactly what they hope to see, are still here in their tens of thousands. And I think on the last lap we're going to see the programmes wave, the cheers, the hats wave, because that will be the victory lap for Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt. They're coming down now, down this long, fast straight at some 145 miles an hour, into the S's for the last time but one, down through the gearbox, all the way down through the gearbox, into first gear, now up through second, third, into fourth, 100 miles an hour, maximum braking for the Melbourne hairpin, down into first gear again, up the incline, or it's quite a hill if you try to walk it, into the left-hander at Goddard. Now we'll be able to see how the crowd reacts, because Webster and Hewitt are about to start their last and seemingly victorious lap, the 24th lap of the Shell British Sidecar Grand Prix. They go into the right-hander at Redgate for the last time, with a lead of 13.5 seconds, and sure enough, the crowd gives them the waves, gives them the cheers, and this, I know, means an enormous amount to a driver and his passenger. Steve Webster said to me after last year's Sidecar Grand Prix, when he won it, that he felt that the crowd was giving him extra power and extra performance, and he wanted to win, not only for himself, for Tony Hewitt, for his father, Mick Webster, who does so much for the pairing, but also for the sponsors and for Britain. And it looks as though that is exactly what he's going to do for the third time in succession. I was going to accuse Tony Hewitt of waving a leg to the crowd, but I think he was just changing his position. Into the straight for the last time, not very long to go now. Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt, who won in America and in the process kindled an enormous enthusiasm for sidecar racing in America. They'd never seen anything like it before, quite literally. They thought it was absolutely fantastic. Come back again, they said, and they will. They won in Germany, they won in Holland. They were second in Belgium and second in France. They started this race with 95 World Championship points. They're going to finish it with 115 World Championship points, because they are about to enter and now leave the last corner of the last lap. The checkered flag, I can tell you, is all ready, and the winners of the Sidecar British Grand Prix are Steve Webster and Tony Hewitt. A magnificent ending to an absolutely magnificent meeting, and one which dramatically increases their chances of a third World Championship in succession for them. Stroyer has finished in second place, Bieland has finished in third place, Michel has finished in fourth position.
Hat-trick of wins for Webster and Hewitt, and with 2 rounds left, a hat-trick of world titles moves closer. 500cc Grand Prix won by the American Kevin Schwantz. Eddie Lawson in second closed the gap on World Championship leader Wayne Rainey. Neil Mackenzie a great ride to fourth. The 250 Championship is decided. The victory by Cito Pons means that the Spaniard successfully defends the title. 125s won by Dutchman Hans Spahn, his 4th victory of the season. Another bike winner, Britain's David Thorpe, won today's Belgian Grand Prix. He goes 15 points clear of Eric Geboers in the World Motocross Championship. Silk Cut